so thank you. So what I'm trying to do, we're all trying to make sociology, we're trying to bring it to life for our students, make it more interesting. And so what I'm trying to do, or what I try to do in my teaching, is to embrace and leverage social media and technologies in order that students can bring or connect their personal experiences to greater social forces. And really, I'm trying to make sociology more accessible, more relevant, and more current. So my talk is on sociology now, using the sociological study of everyday life to facilitate student learning. And what I'm going to talk about over the next kind of 15, 20 minutes is I'm going to look at 4 case studies or 4 kind of examples of media that I use in class and how we can connect those to a sociological topic. So the first one is based on a film, Love Is All You Need, and hopefully it makes students question, hopefully it makes them, what's the word here? Question the familiar, so question the status quo and tap into their sociological imagination. The second source that I use is a social media campaign, Marketing Feminism. The third one is on social class, and it's a documentary by a young man who lives in San Francisco in the Mission District, and he talks about gentrification. And then the final one is an excerpt from a TED Talk, and the person presenting is actually a sociologist, and she talks about groups and networks, social networks, and about mobile technology, and are we all connected online but not really that connected day to day. So sign up. So how do we create sociological thinkers? Well, I think in some ways it's twofold. So obviously we want to ensure that sociology is understandable, so maybe limit the jargon that we're using. We want it to be accessible, relevant, authentic, current to students. So I think we really want to try and tap into topics that are meaty, that pertain to their lives, and kind of bring it to life. Having said that, I think it's important to emphasise that while we want all of these things, we don't want to compromise the integrity of the discipline. So it's not an oversimplification, but you do want students to be able to connect on a level that they can understand. And so tap into what they can relate to. So the connections between their biographies, so their lived experiences, and then those larger social forces, so race, gender, class, economics, and politics. And so like Mona said, there are various sources that we can harness. And the first that I'll talk about, just briefly, we can look at what's trending on Facebook. As long as it falls within a realm of sociology, this isn't just kind of, it needs to be sociological. But YouTube, obviously, online magazines and forums. The documentary I look at on gentrification is a BuzzFeed video, web series, animations, and TED Talks, to name a few. And then this can be in conjunction with the more traditional media, so the latest headlines. There's always something going on in the news that we can bring to the class. NPR, talk shows, films and documentaries, speeches and interviews. And recently, Emma Watson, aka Hermione Granger from Harry Potter, she talks to the He for She campaign and is a UN ambassador for equality, gender inequality. So we looked in class at her speech. And then podcasts, I think they can bring something to the student experience and facilitate student learning in lots of ways. So here's 3 of my favourites. And then social media campaigns. So we saw the one that Mona showed us on, which was really powerful. Is it I Look Disgusting? You Look Disgusting. And then there's Like a Girl, the Sorry Not Sorry. So why use multiple sources? So what can this add to the classroom, and how can it really facilitate learning? Well, should we stick to the tried and tested? So the textbooks, the journal articles, the scholarly books. Well, I think we can do it all, really. I think it's important not to endorse any particular sources. So, you know, these really are a springboard into discussion. And it really comes down to just wanting to engage students and mix it up a bit. If you stand there for an hour and a quarter, everyone's going to lose the will, so it's just to kind of keep the pace going. So it's certainly not a replacement, but a complement to the tried and tested. So before I walk through these 4 examples, I always say to students that we need to think critically about the source that we're looking at. So is it peer reviewed? What does peer review even mean? Is it endorsing a particular product? Like these campaigns, they're sending a strong message, but it's still dull. Is it one-sided? Should we be sceptical? Is it offensive to any particular groups? And then obviously, as instructors, we need to think about copyright, particularly with things like the TED Talks. So here we go. The sociological imagination. So this is the concept. This is what students might be thinking about. And here's how we might go about thinking about that. So I'm going to show you an excerpt. It's about 1 minute long from this film, Love Is All You Need. And it depicts what it's like to be straight in a gay world. So if heterophobia were real. And what it encourages students to do is to question the status quo and defamiliarise the familiar. So they're having to use their sociological imaginations. I hope this works.
Some people say that they are born the way they are destined to be.
Karen is a beautiful, healthy baby girl.
Some people say that it's a result of how you're raised.
That's it, good girl. You're so good. Oh, mommy too.
The problem with that theory is that I had the best, most normal parents anyone could have asked for.
She let me sleep today. She let me sleep for 2 hours. Show mommy how to do stuff. That's it.
Growing up, I was a happy kid.
Happy birthday, Ashley.
We were really the picture-perfect, all-American family. I was 5 when I knew I wasn't like my family. But it was at my uncle's wedding that I had the first sinking feeling that I wouldn't grow up to be like them. Sometimes I wonder that if I had just ignored how that flower bloom made me feel, I could have turned out just like them. Normal.
Okay, so hopefully that gives you a flavour of the film. And so then I asked students, they watch that, and then we talk about, does the film show you what it means to make the familiar strange? The C. Wright Mills describes, so then you kind of bring the sociology into it. Many of us take for granted living in a predominantly straight world. And does it help us access a world beyond our own immediate sphere? So it just kind of gets them thinking about these kinds of questions. Okay, my second example is on gender. So that's kind of the sociological topic or construct that we look at. And then the example that I'm going to give today is Always Like a Girl. So some of you may have seen it. So it's a branded female empowerment campaign. So I asked students, have you watched this before? Have you ever said or heard someone say, you throw a ball like a girl, you run like a girl? I've heard someone say, you cry like a girl. So, you know, students have you know, they consider that. Is it an insult to say that? And then other campaigns include the Sorry Not Sorry, which shows women saying sorry, sorry, sorry all the time. And then the World's Toughest Job that Mona just showed. So again, I've just got a short clip of this example.
Hi, Erin.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm going to just give you some actions to do, and we'll do the first thing that comes to mind. Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. I care. Show me what it looks like to fight like a girl. Now throw like a girl.
My name is Dakota, and I'm 10 years old.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Throw like a girl. Fight like a girl. What does it mean to you when I say run like a girl?
It means run fast as you can.
Oh, cute. So do you think you just insulted your sister?
No. I mean, yeah, insulted girls, but not my sister.
Is like a girl a good thing?
Actually, I don't know what it really, if it's a bad thing or a good thing. It sounds like a bad thing. It sounds like you're trying to humiliate someone.
Okay, so we watch that, and then we think critically about it. So I asked, has feminism gone viral? We've got all these examples of this kind of you know, these kinds of campaigns, and oftentimes students come to the conclusion, well, we can challenge gender norms and we can back inequality, but don't forget we're still buying a product. I asked them, are girls and boys and women and men benefiting from campaigns like these? And then we take a step back, and you know, when you merge it with the literature and other sources, then you can begin to examine, okay, well, let's think about language in the context of this. You know, what does like a girl even mean? We can think about gender roles and gender stereotypes, and then to the big questions, you know, patriarchy and feminism. Okay, my third example pertains to social class, and so by way of background, I say San Francisco grapples with a housing shortage coupled with the influx of workers from the tech boom. One former resident, Kai of the Mission District, shares what's changed and how it feels to be displaced from his home. So he's the person in this video. And as you watch it, think about whether you've seen gentrification in your neighbourhood or witnessed it firsthand in other neighbourhoods.
Been seeing a lot of changes around here, especially on Pleasant Street, and I feel like this is just like the perfect representation of change. Like you got Dia de los Muertos, street art, and then when you look it up, you got luxury restaurant, and right above it, brand new luxury condos.
Okay, so then we would think about, well, what is gentrification? How might we go about defining that? And why does it occur? Is it a necessary step in urban revitalisation? Does it have to be a negative thing? Is there some way we can do it the right way? So bring in new residents while keeping the old. And then we might consider, well, which demographic, i.e. which groups of people does gentrification tend to hurt? And again, then we can take a step back and think about the big picture. So let's talk about class inequalities and how does gentrification fit into that? Okay, my final example, I'm getting dizzy now. The groups and social networks. So we have to think about online social networks. I asked students, and they all like this because they've all got plenty to say about it, but how many hours a day are you using a mobile device? Do you sleep with your cell phone? Are you tempted to check your phone while in class and at work? Do you have a Facebook or Twitter account? Why or why not? And then I asked them to consider the statement, we present the self as we want to be, we can edit and delete. So how do we present ourselves and how do we present kind of these online identities or personas? And then they often have, they have a lot to say about this last one. Do you find it difficult to have face-to-face conversations? And is it easier to communicate online? So this is an example. The source here is a TED talk, and again, I've just taken an excerpt.
I'm still excited by technology, but I believe, and I'm here to make the case, that we're letting it take us places that we don't want to go. Over the past 15 years, I've studied technologies of mobile communication, and I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people, young and old, about their plugged-in lives. And what I've found is that our little devices, those little devices in our pockets, are so psychologically powerful that they don't only change what we do, they change who we are. Some of the things we do now with our devices are things that only a few years ago we would have found odd or disturbing, but they've quickly come to seem familiar, just how we do things. So just to take some quick examples, people text or do email during corporate board meetings. They text and shop and go on Facebook during classes, during presentations, actually during all meetings. People talk to me about the important new skill of making eye contact while you're texting. People explain to me that it's hard, but that it can be done. Parents text and do email at breakfast and at dinner while their children complain about not having their parents' full attention, but then these same children deny each other their full attention. This is a recent shot of my daughter and her friends being together while not being together.
So connected but alone. So this talk is based on her book. So it's kind of a way to make, you know, a big book accessible to students. And then I say, we discuss whether we can link this, the content of this, to theories of the self. So you could think about Goffman and the presentation of the self in everyday life, and life as a performance, and how this might relate to Charles Cooley's The Looking Glass Self. So this is really pushing students to make those connections. And again, I mean, this crosses topics, so you could also look at, do social networks facilitate real-life relationships and civic engagement? So what might Durkheim have to say about modern life and anomie? Discuss Putnam's Bowling Alone and the decline of civic engagement, sorry. So concluding remarks, how do we engage students? To bring the everyday into sociology, we can forge together agency and structure, so the self and the world. The everyday, i.e. the below the radar, the mundane and the ordinary, is how we can understand and examine sociological concepts such as gender, race and social class. And if we can leverage evolving media, both traditional and non-traditional, as a tool through which to connect to the wider social issues. And then finally, this enables us to frame concerns, issues and emerging public trends sociologically, and as Mona said as well, view everyday life through a sociological lens. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Um,